Hi, this is Troy Dreyer, Senior Associate Editor with StreamingMedia.com. We're here at Streaming Forum, our event in London. I'm talking to Max Brown of Coraid about challenges for storage for digital entertainment. Hi, Max.
Hi.
So, what do you see as the challenges for data storage in the media industry?
I think the challenges, as I see it, is that data is exploding, different formats that people are using. There's more data that's being used, it's pumped over the airwaves using IPTV, over the top. In terms of storing data when people are doing things like video ingest, or if they're doing visual effects, we're going from 2K to 4K. It's a massive explosion of data. But the problem we're finding is that most of these companies can't react quickly enough to the explosion of the data. So what people need is a very flexible and a very scalable solution, but one that's also fairly low cost as well. Compared to the old model of having to buy a huge amount of storage up front and then grow into it, what people need is modular storage that they can actually grow into, thereby solving that problem.
Mm-hmm. So I guess you've gotten into it a little bit, but how does Coraid solve these problems?
Okay, so easiest way to explain this is if I do a quick drawing. So what Coraid does, it's a very modular based approach where you buy what you need when you need it. So as an example, you could have a unit with some disks in it, and then up at this layer we would have a box that would be connecting to your corporate LAN, and this would be presenting NFS or CIFS, standard file shares that are used in most of the media entertainment environment. Now we can start off by just connecting one unit into one of these, which might serve you up 40, 50 terabytes of data. But as you start to scale, you just simply add additional boxes into this environment. So now what I have is I've scaled this out, so rather than having to buy 100, 200, 300 or petabytes worth of data up front, I might start off with just 100 terabytes, and then as my environment grows, I add another unit, another storage unit, another storage unit, and another storage unit. But this actually would look like one common pool of storage. And then from that pool, this pool of storage gets presented to this file server, which then serves it out on the LAN as file system 1 to file system, whatever you want to do. And then obviously you can set certain attributes for each one of these file systems in terms of how big they want to be, how much they want to use. And generally at the back end, the technology is cheap and deep SATA drives. So these are very low cost, very easy to expand. Now for things like media environments, these kind of drives are fine, but then what you find is customers also have other environments where they might be doing OLTP processing, SQL databases, things like VMware, where SATA drives would not be they wouldn't suit that kind of workflow. Well again, we can just add another unit to this, but instead of it using SATA drives, we can put in some SSD disks that are insanely fast. So now, if we're doing random IO workloads, then basically these SSDs can absorb a lot of the workload, so you've got extremely fast performance, and then when it's acknowledged the performance, it can just actually physically write the data down to these cheap drives at the back end. So your data storage is physically on cheap and deep SATA drives, but we can use very high performance SSD drives to accelerate the workflows. And the whole idea is I could have pool 1, which is for my media, and then out of this I could actually carve up, getting slightly messy, but I could have pool 2 for, let's say, VMware, which is very common with a lot of our customers. So they've got one common storage layer, which is providing not only workflows for media, it's also providing a solution for an entirely different workload. Now, most other big name vendors would actually be selling you one solution that would do media and then a completely separate solution that would do something like VMware, and these two solutions would not talk together. So you could have one solution that's overused and one solution that's underused, whereas with Coraid, it is one solution regardless of the type of environment that you need to work on. And this is very scalable, so we have customers using anything up to kind of 6 or 7 petabytes of this. But again, you can start small with less than 100 terabytes and then just grow big and keep expanding as much as you need to do. And of course, everything's highly available, it can fail over, and because the back-end connectivity is layer 2 Ethernet, this means that we can actually stretch these across a geographic cluster. So I could have ZFS1 here, and I could have our NAS head node 2, and the distance between those could be miles apart. Obviously, you need fast cross-site links for the latency. But that's kind of, in a nutshell, what Coraid do, the ability to provide a very scalable solution at kind of commodity Ethernet costs with the flexibility of being able to do various different workloads without having to have completely different solutions.
Max, that looks excellent, and I applaud your use of the whiteboard that ties it up. Even though it's messy, I got it. So I know that the move to digital entertainment, online video has been great for your company.
Yep.
Tell me about a few of your big customers.
Okay, so we've got pretty much most of the TV stations in Iceland are running off Coraid. So there's a company called 365 Media, and we've just recently done a case study. What those guys have got, again, they knew they'd need about 600 terabytes, but they started with about 150. They're growing towards 500 now, and they know they're going to get to a petabyte. But again, they could start small and grow big. And because of the way we can segment the workloads, they've actually created two separate pools of storage, similar to my diagram, but they're both for media. So one of them is for doing the playout for the IPTV for people to watch on their set-top boxes. The other side is for the video ingest, for doing things like video conversion and transcoding. But they've managed to keep the workflow separate, so the transcoding side of it, or the ingest, would not affect the IPTV playout. Our largest customer today is a company called Digital Latin America, which is essentially IPTV playout, and this is the equivalent of Netflix, but for South America. They're currently at about 4 petabytes, and they're looking to scale up to 7 petabytes. But again, with the Coraid solution, you scale out, do I need more physical storage? You scale that out. Or do I need more NAS connections, more compute? Then I can scale that layer out. So it's a case of scaling out whichever part you need to use.
Mm-hmm. So they start with what they need, and then as more and more files,
Yep.
as we get to higher and higher resolutions, they can add
Just
on
grow.
and handle the costs as they deal with it.
Exactly. So from a CapEx perspective, you just buy what you need for whatever time frame, rather than having to plan 3 years in advance, have a huge budget, buy something large that maybe you don't grow into or maybe you outgrow quickly. With this solution, it's fully scalable.
And then your system just sees it as one item.
Yep, it's just one big pool of storage. I mean, you can carve it up to as many pools as you want, but on the whole, most people just have one pool of storage, or maybe two, if they want to segment the workloads. And then from that pool of storage, you create as many file systems as you like, and then present those out to end users.
That looks fantastic. Thank you for sharing it with us, and
Thank
much
you.
success.
Thank you.
Good talking to you. This is Troy
Thank you.
Dyer coming to you from Streaming Forum.